All right, what's going on? And welcome. 5 o'clock on a Thursday. We're going to be at the Snowmobile Show tomorrow at the Idaho Center Sports Center. This is Prater in the Ballgame, Idaho Sports Talk, 1 week from Turkey Day. Kind of cool to think about that, put that into perspective. Boise State's playing tonight, Thursday night football. We're airing the Idaho Steelheads following this game tonight. They're playing the Utah Grizzlies. A lot kind of flying around there. Mike Kraken are playing, Prater's Jazz and Golden Knights on schedule tonight. Prater, Tulane's playing a football game. Hello, Thursday. What's up, dude?
A lot of sports. Big night. Big weekend. Sports season, but it's all good. I'm loving it.
It is, man. What do you guys think Boise State's chances are of having players selected not only to the all-conference team, but, player of the year, coach of the year, offensive player of the year, defensive player of the year, I should have said, freshman of the year, the big mainstay awards of the Mountain West. What do the Broncos have? Who can win some of this stuff, Prater? Because, if they take care of beeswax these next two games, they'll be 8-0 in this league. Most teams that run the table in their league have, players littered all over all conference and awards and all that good stuff. So I think the potential's there.
The potential is absolutely there. Now, the margin for error, the margin is very, very slim. We're not talking about a deep list of players. I'm not sure which of the three main ones you want to start with, but we can break this sucker down because I think there's pros and cons all over the place, including some Boise State guys, and you can make some case for a lot of other guys in this league as well.
Okay. First person I'm thinking of, and I want to do this right now. By the way, welcome our video audience. We are airing this particular segment on our social media channels and whatnot. So say hello right there, Prater. Where do you want to start with this? I'm going to go with offensive player of the year. I guess I'll just throw that out there. And I'm not really sure who a lot of the other candidates. I did my homework a little bit on this today. I know you did yours as well. And I think Boise State's got a pretty good chance to have the offensive player of the year in the Mountain West this year. And that's not saying a whole lot. It's been a down year. Let's throw that out there. But I think Boise State's in the mix.
Kind of. Boise State's kind of in the mix. I'm not sure what names you're going to throw out there.
Okay.
I will throw a George Halani out there for sure, especially if Boise State wins these last two games and he finishes strong. But I don't want to be a homer. And I'm not even sure that George Halani's having the best season, the best running back season in the Mountain West Conference right now. Brad Roberts leads everybody, everything, and it's not even close. So I can't sit here, even though Air Force is not having the kind of season that Boise State has, this isn't an individual award, and Brad Roberts might be having the best season of anybody right now. Brad Roberts, according to Pro Football Focus, has gained positive yards on 97% of his carries. That's an unheard of number, and his production this year has been strong. It's been consistent. He's had a 100-yard game, I think, in every single game so far this year, except for one. He's leading the league in rushing, and it's not even really it's kind of close.
It's not really close.
It's not really close, but it's, you can throw a couple of other dudes in there. But Brad Roberts, to me, I'm not suggesting Brad Roberts is the player of the year, but I'm suggesting he might be the guy in the way of George Halani winning offensive player of the year.
Who is the offensive player of the year in the Mountain West? Text that to the Cloverdale Plumbing text line. Brad Roberts, certainly, if you're just going to go by the stats, and I'm sure some voters do that, stats, it's tough for them to lie.
You have to start with the stats, though,
right?
You?
I mean, yeah, you can't not have any type of stats and be in this conversation as far as I'm concerned. I do like to think there's other things that come into play, like, are you playing for a team that's in contention? Are you playing in big games in this league throughout the season? And I think Boise State obviously has the biggest game in this league this season on Saturday. So lots to be said there, Prater. I went with George Halani, and I think he has a good chance to win it. But if the votes were tonight, he's not winning it. He still has more work to do, Prater. He's fifth in the Mountain West in rushing. I thought he'd be second and third when I dove into the numbers. He's fifth. Now, in touchdowns, I mean, he's right up there. He's got 13 total touchdowns, which I believe is the same as Brad Roberts.
Correct.
Just 10 on the ground, 3 through the air for Halani. So he does have the teeters. He's got the sex appeal there. He plays for Boise State, which is the flagship program in this league. If Boise State wins the league, For me, it's going to be Helani. Now, can we mention Talon Green into this conversation? Can we mention Jake Haener into this conversation?
You can mention Talon Green, but I don't think he's the best offensive player on this football team. So again, I'll go back to, why would you pick George Jelani over Brad Roberts when Brad Roberts is the better running back in this conference, having the better season, and George Jelani is having a better season than Talon Green? If Fresno State finishes out strong, Jake Haener is absolutely in the conversation. As a matter of fact, the only three candidates, if you ask me, I'm going to go 3.5 candidates. I'm going to go Brad Roberts. I'm going to go George Jelani. I'm going to go Jake Haener. And I'm going to throw in Talon Green just because we're homers around here. I don't really see the list anywhere beyond that. And I think Brad Roberts is your offensive player of the year.
Mm-hmm. And therefore, so what do you guys think? Again, text those. We'll read those during feedback finale tonight. The case I would make for Talon Green, he leads this conference in passer rating. He leads this conference in passing average yards per attempt, which is a big stat as well. But the meat and potatoes stats, which are passing yards, passing touchdowns, and completion percentage, he still has a lot of work to do in those regards.
At the end of the season, Jake Haener will be, he'll be the number one guy in 85% of all these stats. He's putting up those kinds of gaudy stats right now.
It's hard to believe, but Jake Haener is leading this league in touchdown passes, and he's missed a ton of games, or a handful of games.
Talon Green has played 7 games and started 6, and he's played 201 plays this year. Jake Haener he's played 6, started the exact as many games as Talon Green, 6, and he's played in 39 more snaps this year. So Jake Haener, even though we missed 4 games, significant more snaps than Talon Green, and just as many games and just as much production. So I don't think you can ding Haener and or Talon Green for each missing 2, 3, 4 games so far this year. They're both great players. They're both phenomenal players. They're both really good at what they do. Talon Green for Mountain West Offensive Player of the Year, I just don't see it.
Yeah.
It's you're being a homer, ball game. You're pushing it too hard.
208-424-9300 on the Fat Guys Fresh Jelly Hotline. You want to make a case for someone, go ahead and make it right now. I'll just end this with one thing. Haener, 14 passing touchdowns. Talon Green has 7, but he also has 6 rushing touchdowns. So touchdowns responsible for. Talon Green is up there with anybody in this conference. Defensive Player of the Year, Prater. This one we talked about in Cubicleville today. This one was probably a challenge to determine, if Boise State has anybody in the running, or just who the heck is going to win Defensive Player of the Year in the Mountain West. It's not one of those years where you have that guy where, whoa, okay, this guy's dominating the league. Don't have that this year.
No, you don't. But I think the best guy out there is probably one of the better guys that we talked about preseason, and he's having a hell of a season. And I'm talking about San Jose State edge rusher Viliame Fehoko. Viliame Fehoko. And he's an edge rusher. Sometimes he's played inside. He's top 15 in this league in tackles. He's number 3 in this league in sacks. He's number 1 in this league in TFLs. He's the only player that's on all 3 of those lists right now. There isn't a dominant defensive player. There isn't a dominant defensive player in this conference right now. It's that kind of a season. I'm not even sure. I have no idea. I'm pretty convinced that Brad Roberts and or Jake Haener is going to win Offensive Player of the Year. Probably Brad Roberts. I'm guessing on the Defensive Player of the Year, but at this point, I will go Viliame Fehoko.
I'm going to go Fehoko too. I mean, his stats are there, and Prater, he's on a good team. He's on a team that's over 500. He's on a team that still has a shot to play in the Mountain West championship game. So I'm going to look at all those things too. He's not, say, a stat compiler for a team that can't win a game. I'm not a big fan of those guys winning Conference Player of the Year just because they have the stats, even though they play on the worst team of the league. Can I at least make a play for DJ Schramm? Will you hear me out on this for us?
If you can tell me why you think he's better than Zeke Noah. Zeke Noah might be the better linebacker. I'm not sure DJ Schramm is the best linebacker on Boise State's football team. Go to Pro Football Focus. Zeke Noah grades out way higher than DJ Schramm so far this year. They grade every single play of every single game, and Zeke Noah is one of the highest graded linebackers in all of college football this year at the group of 5 level. So I'm not saying he is better than DJ Schramm, but just based on stats, I think it's 50-50. I don't think you can say that DJ Schramm is better than Zeke Noah or Zeke Noah is better than DJ Schramm.
Yeah, I mean, splitting the votes. I don't know how this actually works too. With
You do know how this works. We've talked about this in football and voting a long time. Two great
What?
running backs on one football team splits the vote.
No, yeah. I mean, like, so you can. I thought maybe you had to have like a coach recommend you for this or that type of thing, and you could only recommend one guy per team. If that's not the case,
I believe that the coaching staffs have to nominate the players. What the rules are within that inside that nominating process, I do not know.
okay. My case for a Boise State player winning Defensive Player of the Year would be, taking say the best player on the best defense or the best statistical season on the best defense. Boise State has had the best defense in this league.
Unless you play BYU.
DJ Schramm, he's not in their league. DJ Schramm is 8th in this conference in tackles. He's first on the team. I mean, you're right. He doesn't have that stat that comes at you. Wyoming, Easton Gibbs has another linebacker people are talking about in the same ilk of some of the past greats they've had at that position. I don't know. Defensive Player of the Year is going to be, I don't know, Prater.
It's going to be Fajoco.
It's San Jose State.
I think so, but I don't feel overly confident about that. But yeah, Easton Gibbs, no. That goes back to what you were just saying at the top of the segment. Just because he's compiled some stats and he's nowhere, he's number 3 in the league in tackles, but he's nowhere on any of these other lists. Sacks, TFLs, forced fumbles, fumble recoveries, passes defended. He's nowhere to be found. He's a stat compiler. And usually the leading tackler on average football teams, they're good players, but they're just mopping up a lot of crappy stats.
All right. Special teams, freshman of the year. Do we want to go there?
We didn't go there.
Well, let's talk about coach of the year.
Let's talk about coach of the year.
Bring it, Prater.
Andy Avalos, as we sit right now, but he's got to win out. He absolutely 100% has to win out. There's only 3 men on this list. Tedford, Craig Bohl, Andy Avalos. Those are the only 3 you can come up with. Right now, as we sit here today, I will pick Andy Avalos. Andy Avalos changed the direction of the Boise State football season. Now, a smart voter is also going to come back and say Andy Avalos put his football team in a bad situation for the first month of the season to the point where he had to do dramatic and crazy things just to save the season. So there's a knock about how they started the season, but he gets massive credit for saving the season and making great decisions and righting the ship and putting Boise State back into the championship hunt. So if he wins out, if they beat Wyoming and if they beat Utah State, I think Andy Avalos is your coach of the year, but Craig Bohl and Jeff Tedford are lurking. Craig Bohl has to win his last 2 games. Oh, by the way, they're against Boise State and Fresno State.
Wow.
Craig Bohl could be having one of these sneaky, quiet, magical seasons, and he wins out, and all of a sudden he's going to LA for the SoFi Bowl
at 9-3.
At
right?
9-3. So that's not terrible. They've only got 1 loss in league. So
yeah,
let's not dismiss that. I think Boise State wins on Saturday. We'll see. But if Craig Bohl has got a sneaky season brewing, then credit to him, and he's going to win it. And maybe Avalos and Bohl, if they split out and Tedford wins out, maybe Tedford wins it as well.
I guess, yeah, if Tedford wins out, I think the chance for Tedford to win it is Bohl to beat Avalos on Saturday. And then I don't think it matters if Avalos beats Utah State, whatever. Tedford to win out. And then you can make Tedford's case saying he loses the preseason player of the year in this league, stays afloat, and somehow, some way still wins that division. Maybe you can make, plus it's his first year back, all that stuff throwing into his crock pot to see if the meal can come out coach of the year worthy. But this is by far Andy Avalos's award to lose right now. And just think about it. When we were just talking about this team after the UTEP loss, here we are saying Andy Avalos might be 1 win away on Saturday from being coach of the year in this league. And I think he's going to get more credit than discredit for what you were saying there, Prater, about flipping this season.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
But you have to look at what happened in the first month. You can't ignore it. He's the one that put Boise State in that situation. He was the one that had an offensive coordinator he had to fire. He was the one that had a quarterback that had gone completely and grossly south and had to leave the football team.
Weird.
So you can't ignore that. You can't ignore that Homer guy. Come on now.
I'm not a Homer.
You
Would
wanted
you
to
stop
vote,
accusing
you wanted
JP,
to vote for,
I'm not liking
you wanted
this.
to vote for Avalos, Halani, and Schramm for all 3 of these awards.
Well, they're dominating the league. They're
dominating the league. And you said
only...
Avalos by far? Avalos is not leading the coach of the year job by far. Right now, I think it's, he's leading it by 1% over Tedford and Bohl.
1%, Prater?
Homer. You're a
God,
homer.
I'm not a homer.
Do your Vandal fans give you crap for being a Boise State homer?
No,
You're a
because
Vandal
I'm
fan?
not. My Vandal fans know what's going on. Dude. They know I'm not a BSU homer, but
Just giving you a hard time.
I know you are, and it's pissing me off today, Prater.
But come on. You came in here with all three of those guys leading awards. Andy Avalos is running away with Coach of the Year. George Alani is way better than Brad Roberts.
I will say this, though, about Andy Avalos in the first 4 games of the season. He still went 2-2. It's not like he went 0-4 and had to make all these changes. He was 2-2.
And in that 2-2, he was 1-0 in the league.
He also lost his biggest game of the season and lost one of the most embarrassing games in program history.
There's that.
So I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer here.
The embarrassment was the UTEP loss.
I'm voting for Andy Avalos as we sit here today for Coach of the Year. But you have to put that kind of stuff into the conversation, guys.
And what do you guys think? 208-424-9300. We got updates coming up, JP. We got soapboxes to hop on. A lot of stuff going on in football. Hang out with us. Prater in the Ballgame, Idaho Sports Talk.
From the Beacon Plumbing Traffic Studios, this is